Today, we're going to be taking a gander at a 38-inch Hunter Original in antique brass. Ordinarily, this fan would be 36 inches, but with the reversaire brackets, that gives it an extra inch on either side. It has the round globe that Originals are somewhat famous for. And of course, it is R&M, or Robbins and Myers. And the antique brass on this fan is in alright shape. It has light oak blades. It does have some pitting and some tarnishing and corroding, but certainly could be a lot worse. Could be better too, though. And the fan came with no mounting. It did come with a down rod and a canopy, but it was the sloped ceiling it was of that kind, so wasn't able to use that here. So for those who don't know, Hunter's antique brass back during this time was really sucky. It was notorious for tarnishing and corroding to the point where the finish was no longer recognizable and it looked like more of a verde color. Eventually, like in the late 80s, Hunter did up their game with antique brass. However, as for Robbins and Myers Originals, if you manage to come across one in antique brass, odds are it will be tarnished and corroded beyond recognition. In uncommon cases, you can find an antique brass original that still looks decent, such as with the case here. I got two of these off of Harrisburg Craigslist recently. Originals in general are usually something I'll get, but seeing, small ones with reversaire and in a finish that is in a finish that you usually don't see in this good a shape, jumped at the opportunity. I'll go ahead and demonstrate the fan now, starting with the light. So, one thing about this fan is that it only has one speed. And I looked at the pull chain and checked all the wire connections, and everything seemed to be fine there, so not entirely sure why that is. It is a three-way pull chain. It just has two offs and then one setting where it actually runs. So I'm not entirely sure. I assume a wire is loose somewhere else, or maybe it was the way the fan was wired, because the original owner did tell me he had it on a wall control, so maybe that was a part of it. Either that or a wire is loose, or maybe this just happens to be a one-speed original. I mean, I don't think one-speed originals were a thing at this time, but I am not too knowledgeable of originals, so I wouldn't really know for sure. Anyways, we'll turn the fan on to its singular speed. And it does have a bit of a hum, which is par for the course with R&M Originals that don't have the isolation ring, though the isolation ring wasn't introduced until the tail end of the R&M saga, so that is the vast majority of them that don't have it. And something else worth noting is that because of the reversaire brackets and the rather small motor this fan has, the fan overall is rather underpowered. This is what would be the high speed, and if it had regular C brackets it would be spinning a lot faster, and in turn blowing a lot more air. Though it does still manage to put off a decent breeze. These fans have a fair bit of nostalgia for me, as there is a breakfast diner slash ice cream parlor. It was a breakfast diner in the morning and then an ice cream parlor in the evening at a beach my family would frequent that used to have two of these 38-inch antique brass reversaire originals out on its front porch. Recently they were replaced, though, by modern crappy fans, most likely because of the sea air, you know. Because, you know, with the fact that Hunter's antique brass back then was not good from the get-go, and the sea air, you know, that was two things working against it. And then, if they didn't oil these things, you know, that's a death wish for an original, so... yeah. But then inside the diner/ice cream parlor, as far as I'm aware still to this day, there are 5 or 6 52-inch antique brass reversaire originals. And the finish on those fans is pretty corroded as well. You know, they look more like Verde than antique brass, but as far as I'm aware, they are still there. I do remember the two on the front porch were not replaced both at the same time. It was one maybe like 7 years ago, and then another one maybe only like 2 or 3 years ago. Because I remember when I saw one of them gone, I was going to think, like, maybe I should, like, ask them if they're going to replace the other one and see if I can get it, but didn't end up happening, so glad I was able to get this fan in some form, though. And there you go. This is one of two 38-inch antique brass Hunter R&M Originals.